evening. Welcome to the April 21st, 2025 Troy City Council meeting. This evening, we're honored to have Associate Pastor Matt Schuler from Faith Lutheran Church to provide our invocation. So please rise if you are able and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance after. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Lord God, Heavenly Father, I give you thanks that it's Easter Monday, that we live in a world transformed by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Lord, I pray that you would comfort those who are in mourning today, the death of Pope Francis, that there's more that unite us in Christ than divides us in doctrine. I give you thanks for those students being honored tonight from Troy Athens, for the work that they did for Next Steps for Seniors, and the way that one of our own students at Faith shared powerfully about the work of the organization, that through faith, hope, and love, they help vulnerable seniors live out their lives with dignity and grace. And so, Lord, that all people are created in your image, I give you thanks for the giftedness of this council, that they are about the work of the city of Troy, for the good of all people. And so we pray through the Holy Spirit in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll call to order the April 21st, 2025 Troy City Council meeting and ask for the roll call from Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga?
Here.
Councilmember Chanda?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. First up on the agenda is certificates of recognition and special presentations. We do have one this evening. C1 is a proclamation in recognition of Athens High School 2024-25 Student Council regarding Charity Week. So I'll ask the students who are here this evening to join me down at the podium and to face out, and I'll present the proclamation. Hi, everybody. Come on around. So awkward. All right, you guys can scoot forward, otherwise I feel like I'm there. Yeah, come forward. Everyone wants to see you. All right, well, come on a little bit. Cindy's going to yell about pictures being out of balance. I know how that goes. So, well, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate everyone coming. Charity Week at Athens is really one of the most exciting things that our city does year after year, and it's really the students that do it. And I know our whole community comes together to help everybody out, and I just think it's such an amazing thing that you do, and people before you have done, and the students after you will continue to do, because it really says a lot about our community spirit. But I'm going to read this proclamation into the record and remind everybody why you're here tonight. So this is a proclamation in recognition of Athens High School 2024-25 Student Council. Whereas the Athens High School Student Council is a very active and dedicated group of 53 students and 2 advisors committed to giving back to their community as well as the region. And whereas each year the Athens High School Student Council puts in countless hours as well as blood, sweat, and tears to help raise money for a charity of their choice during Charity Week. Charity Week is all about generosity, activism, collaboration, and service leadership. Students have fun and make meaningful memories while giving of themselves for the benefit of others. And whereas the Athens High Student Council selected Next Steps for Seniors Foundation this year in the hopes of raising awareness about an underserved population. The foundation was founded in 2017 with the intention of providing financial assistance for low-income seniors in need of proper housing, food, health, care, and supportive services. And whereas this year, the Athens High School Student Council gave back in a way that many teens and even most adults could not do by organizing a full week of activities, including Carnival Night, Community Quest, Scavenger Hunt, ice skating, jail and bail, belly flop contest, hypnosis show, pancake breakfast, coin stalls in the classrooms, a film festival, a parent cook-off, restaurant nights, volleyball tournament, Mr. Athens pageant, pep assembly, dance, euchre tournament for parents, and an espresso yourself talent show. And whereas Athens High Student Council this year raised, good timing, raised $100,501.93 for the Next Steps for Seniors Foundation. In previous years, consistently, they've raised up 6 figures or above, so it's very impressive. Whereas the Athens Student Council generates excitement throughout the school's 1,600 students as well as within the community, student council meetings take place prior to school starting and after a full day of class members stay after school to count the money raised from the day's activities, set up for the night's events, run those events, and then go home to complete their homework. There is not a lot of sleep for student council members during Charity Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council extends special recognition to the Athens High School Student Council for their selfless and tireless service and dedication to so many worthwhile organizations over the years. And be it further resolved that the Troy City Council and all of Troy's residents congratulate the Athens High Student Council for being a shining example of how to give back to the community, as well as the region, and wish all of the Athens High School students continued success in all future endeavors. This proclamation is presented this 21st day of April 2025. It's signed by myself as the mayor. All members of our city council have signed it as well. Is the president here? Well, I'm going to present it to you, and I'll say congratulations on behalf of the whole community. Really, this is a community event, and I know you all work very hard to engage our community who give so much, and it couldn't happen if you students didn't work so hard each year to do it. So congratulations, and thank you so much. We present that to you, and thank the Athens High Student Council. Applause would be appropriate. So. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, Troy City Council. In reflecting on this Charity Week, the word that I keep coming back to is the impact. The impact we've made on Southeast Michigan, specifically the seniors in Southeast Michigan, the people in our community here in Troy, as well as the community we have at Athens High School. And we could not do it without the support we have from Troy and our City Council and our Mayor. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And of course, your two advisors, Mr. Dufresne, and who else is here? Mr. McCourt. Mr. McCourt, of course, the two advisors make all the difference. Good to see you both. Thank you for being here. All right, I'm gonna let you take this. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Very quiet leaving. That's impressive, too. All right, that concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have no carryover items this evening, but we do have several public hearings. So we will work through these one at a time. First up is E1, DraftKings Sports and Social Liquor License Violation. This will be introduced by Nicole McMillan, our Assistant City Attorney, and Lynn Georgie, our Police Staffing and Standards Specialist. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We had 8 liquor license violations in the 2024 calendar year. Starting off first with DraftKings Sports and Social. It's located at 2850 Coolidge Road, which is off of Coolidge south of Big Beaver. This facility possesses an on-premises liquor license, and it's had the license since 2022. On August 28th of 2024, they failed a compliance check that was conducted by the DPU with the Troy Police Department, whereby a bartender had served alcohol to the minor decoy. The bartender was issued a citation, which she pled responsible to and was assessed the maximum fine in court. As it relates to the administrative proceedings with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, the facility admitted responsibility to this violation and was assessed a $500 fine. This was the facility's first violation of this type. In response to the violation, the employee was terminated. And then, in addition to that, a representative from the facility has submitted written correspondence to City Council explaining the circumstances, which is included in the agenda packet. At this point, city administration is recommending that the facility provide proof that the employees have successfully completed a server training program or alcohol education equivalent program within 90 days, which is outlined in the proposed resolution. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well,
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
I would ask which program, TIPS, do you require, or?
TIPS is the one that's generally used, and so that would be ideal.
Okay.
In this instance, there are others, but I think TIPS is.
How long do they have to do that?
In the resolution, we had suggested 90 days to be able to produce the certifications for verification.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, this is a public hearing, so I got to open the public hearing. I don't see that anybody is signed up to speak on E1, but that doesn't prohibit you from speaking. Would anyone like to speak on E1, the liquor violation relating to DraftKings Sports and Social? I see no one. I'll close the public hearing and ask if someone would like to move the resolution as presented. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move E1, DraftKings Sports and Social Liquor License Violation as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Brooks, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve E1, DraftKings Sports and Social Liquor License Violation as presented in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is E2, public hearing for Granite City Food and Brewery liquor license violation, again, to be presented by Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
Up next, we have Granite City Food and Brewery. This is located at 699 West Big Beaver, which is at the intersection of Livernois and Big Beaver. While Granite City has been in the city for a long time, it did switch ownership in 2020, and a new on-premises liquor license was obtained by the new owners. There was a failed compliance check on April 25th of 2024, whereby a bartender had served alcohol to the minor decoy. In this instance, the bartender was issued a citation in which the bartender pled responsible and was issued the maximum fine. In addition, the facility admitted responsibility in front of the MLCC and was assessed a $500 fine. This was the facility's first violation under the new ownership. In response to the violation, the employee was terminated, and there is written correspondence from a representative in the agenda packet. In addition, the representative is here this evening to speak to council when the time is appropriate. City administration is recommending, again, as with the previous case, that council approve the proposed resolution to require that there is submission of server training that is provided.
Thank you. Any questions on this one? All right, I'll open the public hearing. I see one person is signed up. Cynthia Rivers. Ms. Rivers, you have 3 minutes by the rules of our...
I am the new general manager at Granite City Food and Brewery. I've been there since the end of December. I did bring all of our documentation that's also on the agenda. This is very important to us, and we take this very seriously. It's something that I will not tolerate with my staff, make sure that we're doing proper alcohol service. We use ServSafe for our staff. For compliance training, it's a course that they have to take. They have to take the test at the end, and they have to recertify every 3 years to have it. Any employee that serves alcohol, all our managers, any key holder, supervisor, reposition has to have their ServSafe. We talk about it in our pre-shifts. It's something that we take super seriously and make sure our staff understands the seriousness of this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming forward. I don't see anybody else signed up for E2 to speak on this matter, but again, that doesn't prohibit you from speaking now if you'd like to. All right, I will close the public hearing and see if someone would like to move the resolution as presented. Councilmember Chanda.
I move E2, Granite City Food and Brewery liquor license violation as printed on the agenda package.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chanda, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve E2 Granite City Food and Brewery liquor license violation as presented in the agenda packet. Any discussion? I appreciate you coming, Ms. Rivers, and I also appreciate you saying how important this matter is and how much you take it seriously at Granite City. I think it's, Granite City's been here a long time, even though it's a newer license holder, although 2020 was 5 years ago now. So we understand that how serious you seem to be taking this, and Granite City is taking this as well. Please keep that up. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. Next up is E3, the Melting Pot liquor license violation. Again, presented by Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie. Lynn's doing a lot of presenting.
The Melting Pot, as most of the council is aware, is located at 888 West Big Beaver, which is just west of I-75 off of Big Beaver. They have had a on-premises liquor license since 2006. There was a compliance check done by the DPU on August 28th of 2024, whereby a bartender served alcohol to the minor decoy. That server was issued a citation and ultimately pled responsible, was assessed the maximum fine. The facility, also the license holder, also admitted responsibility in front of the MLCC, whereby there was a $700 fine that was assessed. Since 2006, this establishment has had 3 violations, including this one. The 2 prior ones, one was in 2011 and the other was in 2015. However, this facility has also passed 13 compliance tests over the same span of time. In response to the violation, the restaurant required that all employees undergo alcohol service training. In the agenda packet, there was written correspondence from a representative whereby they explained the circumstances, and city administration, again, is recommending proof of training within 90 days, as outlined in the proposed resolution.
Nikki, was this employee terminated?
This employee, I don't believe that they were terminated. I believe it went in the file. There was a mark in the record, but we were not given information about the termination of this employee.
But Mayor, they actually already did do this the serve safe. They did send us proof of that. So they did on their own do that before they were told to.
Any other questions? All up with a public hearing. I don't see anybody signed up for E3, but again, that doesn't prohibit you from speaking if you'd like to. All right, I will close the public hearing and see if someone would like to move the resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Gunn.
Move the Melting Pot liquor license violation as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, that we approve E3, the Melting Pot liquor license violation as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hoderick?
Mayor, I would note that when we have had these hearings in the past, and employees who violated almost routinely were fired from the establishments. And I appreciate the establishment that came forward to speak to how important this is. And it is a recognition and communicates very clearly what the ramifications are of serving underage. So it's not clear if that happened here, but I guess I would like to say for the record, it would be my expectation, and I guess a tone I would like to set here in the city, that we do view this so seriously that if an employee that does serve alcohol in the city of Troy violates and serves underage, they should be, in my view, let go, because they have demonstrated the inability to follow the law. These liquor licenses don't come easily to these establishments, and I would hope that employees would understand the seriousness of the work and following the law. I just wanted to make that comment here. They may have in this case, but I just wanted to state, and for my colleagues where this might be newer to you, because we haven't done a lot of this post-COVID, and it's our first one. That is, what's the word I'm looking for? The tradition, the norm, the expectation in the city of Troy, if you hold a liquor license, that the city leadership takes it very seriously in following the law. I just would like to reestablish that here.
Thank you. It's in line with my problem. If I vote no on this resolution, nothing happens. Or there's no consequences other than what's already happened. I don't think it's my place to try to amend it to require they terminate an employee, although I suppose I could. But it bothers me that either they didn't come forward, maybe they did it and didn't come forward with it, but I don't think that's the case for some reason. Usually, I mean, your previous presentations prior to this and going years back, it's very clear that's one of the standard things that happens. And I guess my question for, I don't know if it's city management or city attorney's office, I don't want to just pass this and move on, because I think that's against our traditional, for lack of a better word, policy and how we handle these violations here in the city of Troy. Is there a potential alternative thing that could be done from the table tonight?
You could continue this public hearing until the next meeting and have the representative here. I would say that there was some miscommunication, and so some of the persons submitted the letter and presumed that that was sufficient. So they're not here tonight, but we could have them here tonight if it's important to council.
It's important to me, but I'm just one, so I don't know how my colleagues feel about this. Good. Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
A clarifying question. I understood that we're not sure that it could have been that the employee was terminated. We just don't have the information. So I don't think we should presume that, something bad has happened or what we don't, or the opposite of what we want. We just don't know. But if there's a way to get that information to satisfy my colleagues, I'd be happy to pursue that route.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yeah, I'm also fine with receiving some additional information before we make a decision on this.
Nodding heads. Okay, so my question then becomes, do I need to make a motion to postpone this public hearing?
It would be to continue it because it's
continue?
been opened already.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to continue E3, the Melting Pot liquor license violation, until the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
Support.
So I'm seeking information regarding the status of that employee that violated the law. Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve the motion to continue this public hearing until the next regular scheduled city council meeting for the reasons stated on the record. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is, do you have a question, Mark?
I do have a question on this next one.
Okay, we'll get there.
Well, no,
E4.
it's important.
Well, let's get it on the table so we can start. E4, the next up is E4, Polish Market Liquor License Violation Hearing, again presented by Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
Thank you. This facility is located at 2938 East Maple, which was at Maple and DeQuinder intersection. The facility has an off-premises liquor license, and it has had that license since 2017. They failed a compliance check on April 15th of 2024, whereby a clerk sold alcohol to the minor decoy. The clerk was issued a citation and pled responsible, was assessed the maximum fine. In addition, the license holder also admitted responsibility in front of the MLCC and was ordered to pay a $900 fine. This is the establishment's third violation. The other two, there was one in 2018, and there was additionally another one in 2023. Since this violation, the location has passed a compliance check in February of this year, so just a few months ago. In response to the violation, the facility now conducts weekly in-house trainings and has posted additional signage throughout the store regarding underage drinking and not supplying alcohol to minors. There is additional information from a representative from the facility in the agenda packet. And like the previous case that was called, I am not aware that the employee was fired in this case. And so city administration is recommending that they submit proof of training within 90 days.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, is that your question, or do you have another question?
Well, potentially something for Lori. So I have a business that we do liquor liability insurance inspections, and this company was on our list in the last year.
Are you asking if you need to recuse yourself?
Yeah.
I would defer to council if council feels like this is something that they feel is a conflict. I'm guessing you.
It wasn't me personally, but one of my employees, but I don't recall the result of the inspection, but so you know.
Is it something that's a continuing
No, once we
contract?
complete the inspection, we submitted the liquor liability inspection to the underwriter and we're done. But based on what I'm hearing, I'm not sure that, I can't recall the details, but I don't recall them having any violations.
I appreciate the disclosure, and I leave it to council to determine whether or not they feel that it's a conflict that you should be recused from voting on this one.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's, plenty of disclosure for me. I don't feel there's a conflict here.
Sure. Yep. I guess my only question is, do you feel that you can't make an honest and judged decision?
Yeah, I feel
based
like
on
I
this?
need to go back to the underwriter now, but.
Aside from that, are you able to perform your duties tonight?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm not sure if we're aware. So I know the Polish market. I go there for East European delicacies. I maybe have brought them here before. You have people who frequent from all different cultures, including some of the cultures my husband comes from, and just wonder if ever language is a barrier, if there's thought of those signs also being in different languages, recognizing people are coming from other cultures with legal drinking age is different. So I don't know if any of those cultural factors are part of the discussion in helping this entity abide by standards here.
That's a good point. And I can pass that, relay that on to the representatives from the facility and let them know that would be something that they could do above and beyond to be able to get the message across to.
Any other questions? Councilmember Chanda?
So this is my very first time, my first second year in council, but very first time I'm looking at a liquor license violation. So I was just wondering, is that we're asking them to give employee training that's a reactive, do we require the businesses to do employee training on their own even before a violation? Is there any policy we have?
So state law regulates liquor license, and there is a requirement that in order to serve, there's certain training requirements that are mandated by state law in order for somebody to be licensed and sell alcohol on the premises. So that is something that's addressed, and I know that Most of the certificates that are obtained last, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then they're redoing the training, the servers are. So it is something that's regulated by state law.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
I would just ask, based on what you just said, besides the undercover work, which you guys have done a phenomenal job, it looks like, do you ever just go in and just verify that their training has been kept up?
So our police officers on road patrol are assigned to do liquor inspections where they just pop in, take a look around, look at the license has to be visible in the facility. So they do that, I think, 4 times a year, I believe, is what our liquor inspections are.
Okay.
And then MLCC does their own controlled buys too, where like 2 of these facilities tonight, had already passed MLCC going in and doing checks, and they send them a letter and they post that on the website.
Oh, nice, okay.
Councilmember Hoderick?
It says in the letter that they've worked hard to put preventative steps in place and now have added a weekly alcohol sale and employee training, where our cashiers are retrained on a weekly basis and asked to sign the document. That, I don't think I recall ever in the hearings that I sat in that type of routine training was offered up by an establishment. So I just call that out as something that leaped out to me when I was going through this, that they've really stepped up to make sure, because at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the cashiers, regardless of language or the cultural traditions of the person making a purchase, that the cashiers can be that buffer of that perhaps cultural gap that you rightfully bring up that would likely occur there. So a weekly training is not something I don't think we always see that, and I'm glad to see it here.
What was the consequence for 2023? Do you know? They had a violation in 2023, you said?
They did.
That might have just been a resolution that came before us, or we didn't have a hearing, I don't
Well,
believe.
the only thing that I'm
Sorry,
going to have
Lynn.
on here is what MLCC did,
Okay.
that, with their,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, I apologize.
oh, it's okay. So in 2023 violation, it was a $700 fine.
Similar set of facts?
Probably, yes. Yes, it was one of our decoys. And so when DPU goes in with the decoys, they don't have any kind of ID on them at all. They're not allowed to lie or fib or, do you have your ID? Nope. And then, so, yes, they should be checking, but looking at the dates, but these decoys don't even have IDs. They're not trying to get anything past anybody. They're just walking in there, putting down some beer. I want to buy this. And they either check or they don't. And if they say, show me your ID, they just walk out. So. And you mentioned the names, looking briefly at the names versus the citation, it doesn't look like that person who received the citation is on any of those weekly trainings, just by glancing at the names.
Actually, I did the same thing, and I think she is, but it's a nickname on here.
Oh, it's a nickname.
So, yeah, it's a nickname.
Which
It would indicate that
of January.
it's still
indication
employed.
it's not terminated, which
Correct.
then puts me in a double standard spot for my previous. I mean, that's where I'm struggling again. If I took one course with the previous one, I have a problem with it. I'm
Mayor, and
Councilmember Hamilton.
this is their 3rd violation in 8 years, too, on top of that. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
I just don't know. Again, I don't know what consequences. City Attorney Bloom.
So again, this is a little bit different. The on-premises license, you have more leverage, if you will, for the on-premises licenses because you can object to what is otherwise an automatic renewal. This is an STD, SDM, so you take the alcohol off-site to consume it, and the state statute is more limited in those situations. There have to be 3 violations within a year before any negative action can be taken.
Well, let me open the public hearing, unless there's any more questions for these two. All right, public hearing's open. Nobody has signed up to speak, doesn't prohibit anybody from speaking if you'd like to. Please come forward. State your name, if you will.
I signed up for one.
Oh, okay.
My name is Majid Casto. I've been in this business for the last 40-some years, and all we see is like decoy walked in, bought, and left. So if we check ID, we get a thank you letter, or if they sold, they get a ticket. What if we do the punishment for the customer that buys as under 21, that you punish them just as much as store owner employees? Maybe we'll prevent from buying alcohol underage. Or there's so many ways that we could do the training, do the fine, do everything else. But at the end of the day, just like a car, when car maker makes car goes 170 miles an hour, you cannot drive more than 70. The driver is responsible, not the car maker that is responsible for their action. So I suggest, or I think, is if a customer comes in knowingly knowing that he's under 21, that he should be punished more than store owners, or just like the customers should be more, I think, responsible also than they are. We also go through training for our employees and our owners with that. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this matter? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Someone want to move the resolution before we make any comments? It's very frustrating. It's a comment. I'm not supposed to be making comments. Well, you know what? I'm going to move E4, Polish Market Liquor License Violation Hearing, as printed in the agenda packet, so we can talk about it.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve E4 Polish Market Liquor License Violation Hearing as printed in the agenda packet. First, I appreciate you coming forward. I don't understand a world where it would make more sense where there's no skin in the game for the person selling the alcohol to the minor who's making the profit. I get it, but I don't get it. So but thank you for trying to bring a solution. To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I do understand what you're saying. Minors shouldn't be buying alcohol. I get it.
They should be more responsible.
Thank you. Everybody should be more responsible. I agree. I move this resolution. I'm still frustrated by the whole process. It sounds like we have limited opportunity to take any further action. I'm hesitant to start pushing these over to the next meeting. Our next meeting, we have our budget public hearing, but we received the email from the Polish Market, which states that our employee finally is taking it seriously. I guess I understand that and believe that, but it concerns me that the employee wasn't before, and is the employee really taking it seriously? I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I want to vote yes and move on with this one, but I'm not saying we should be punting all these to the future unless we feel like we could get something more out of it. And I say all that because traditionally in the past, and I think Councilmember Hamilton and Councilmember Hoderick and I are the only ones that have done these liquor violation hearings. We're tough on the employees or on the owners who come forward, and we have an opportunity to ask them very pointed questions as to what they've really done, and it feels a little bit soft, I don't know, for lack of a better word. Councilmember Chanda?
Yeah, I mean, I want to add to that. I also feel a little disturbed. They're saying that, we are finally taking this seriously. I mean, they should have been taking this seriously for last whatever years they had their license. So I also don't know, what leeway would we have? I mean, it sounds like you need 3 violations within a year to take the liquor license out, which is probably the ultimate action you can take. But I'm okay with moving forward, but as you said, we don't want to do 2 double standard, one for melting pot, one for Polish Market, so
Councilmember Hoderick?
Just to be clear, I think the Polish market owner took this very seriously. And what he was conveying to us is that they were struggling with conveying the seriousness to the cashiers. And so this happened again, and now they're doing weekly training. During this violation, the police officer gave our cashier a ticket. She had to call the court and pay the fine. And honestly, after that, from our management observations, we have noticed that now all of the cashiers finally realized that this is not some kind of a joke, and this is a very serious violation that has occurred. And I guess what we're saying is, yes, it is. And to your point, to not have one standard with one establishment and another, while I appreciate this letter, I do think that we would like to see more information about that. And literally, people have lost their jobs over this. So an understanding, is this person, should they still be a cashier, or should they be in another role in that establishment, or should they even still be in that job? I think it's fair of us to ask this question. Again, these liquor licenses aren't handed out pell-mell, willy-nilly to establishments. There are rules for having one, and we have very limited capacity to really work to enforce what that is and what it means to our communities. So I hear your struggle, Mayor, I concur, and if we can amend this, or I don't know what the next step is, but.
Continue the public hearing to the next.
Right, but there's a pending motion on the table, right, that I moved? What do I need to do with that, City Clerk?
If you wanted to continue the public hearing, you could do the same thing that we did with the other one and do a motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting. If you wanted to amend it to change the wording, you can just, someone can propose an amendment. It's up to you.
I don't want to try to amend this resolution as it's written. I mean, I'd like to move to continue it to, I'm hesitant to put them all on the May 5th public hearing schedule. But I don't know if that's sufficient notice, first of all, for the ownership. I'd be willing to amend this one to the following May meeting for ease, but I don't know what that date is.
May 19th.
May 19th? Okay, so that's my motion. My motion is to continue this public hearing, E4 Polish Market Liquor License Violation hearing, to the regularly scheduled May 19th, 2025 Troy City Council meeting, so that we can obtain more information from the ownership regarding the status of this employee and whether or not the terms of the email as submitted are true, I guess.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga, that we approve the motion to continue this public hearing as just stated into the record. Any further discussion? Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga.
Just want to state, I think the other piece of information I would like more assurance on is the nature of these weekly trainings. Are these happening? What do they look like? How can we, is there a way that we could double check in some capacity on that?
Thank you. Good point. Any other discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chanda?
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is E5, Sunoco Maple Gas Mart LLC liquor license violation. Again, Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
Mayor, can I clarify for the melting pot, is that one going to be on May 19th, continue to that date as well?
The motion made was for May 5th specifically.
That's the way I recorded it, yes.
Yeah. So I, in hindsight, I wish I would have put it to the 19th, but I can't do that now, right?
Motion to reconsider that resolution to change the date.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the resolution continuing the E3 melting pot liquor license violation to change the date from May 5th, regular scheduled city council meeting, to May 19th, Troy City Council meeting.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Carranga, that we approve the motion to reconsider as just read into the record. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Crainga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. E5.
E5, yes. So this is Sunoco Gas Station located at 1490 East Maple, which is Maple and Stevenson. They have an off-premises liquor license since 2017. They failed a compliance check April 15th of 2024, whereby a clerk sold alcohol to a minor decoy. The clerk was issued a citation, which she admitted responsibility and was assessed the max fine. The facility admitted responsibility in front of the MLCC and was assessed a $600 fine. This is this establishment's third violation, with the other ones taking place in 2017 and 2021. This location, like the last one, did pass a compliance check in February, so just a few months ago. In this specific instance, the letter from the representative did indicate that the employee was reprimanded. There is also a letter from that employee, which is included in the agenda packet, outlining why, what the confusion was on her end, and why that she made the mistake that she made. So in this instance, again, as in the prior cases that were called, city administration is requesting proof of training within 90 days.
Thank you. Any questions? Employee was not terminated, correct?
The employee was, no, there's a letter from the employee,
I'm looking at
at
it
least
right now.
trying to explain.
And the one from the owner saying that she was put on notice that she'd be terminated if it happened again. He said, "There will be no room for you at my business."
Okay. Let me open the public hearing. I don't see anybody who's signed up, but it doesn't prohibit you from speaking on E5. All right, close the public hearing. I'd like to make a motion to continue this public hearing until the May 19th regular Troy City Council meeting. I'd like to speak to the owner as to why the employee wasn't terminated. I've read the letter from the employee thinking it was one of her regulars. That to me is almost worse. I made the motion. Let's see what happens.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve the motion to continue E5 Sunoco public hearing until the May 19th regular Troy City Council meeting. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Crainga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is the E6 BP Gas, John R. Petromart liquor license violation. Again, presented by Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
This BP gas station is located at 1980 East Maple, which is at Maple and John R. in the city of Troy. The circumstances of this are a little bit different than the others. While there was a failed compliance check at this location, the license holder at that time no longer owns that business. That license is in escrow at this point. There is a new owner who has a conditional license at this time. So unlike the previous cases, the licensee who had the violation is no longer in charge and working at this location. And so they did, the individual clerk who did sell or attempt to sell alcohol to the decoy was ticketed, and they admitted responsibility and were assessed the maximum fine in court. And so city administration for this one is recommending on the conditional license that we do receive proof that in compliance with state law, that the employees who will be selling alcohol are trained and certified to do so, just to ensure that this location doesn't have any violations going forward and can have a clean slate and stay that way.
Do you know if the employee works for the new license holder?
That is a great question. I am not sure whether or not any of the original staff was kept on when it switched ownership.
And you said the license is conditional. What conditions are, do you know?
So at this point, they're through the state, they're doing the background check, so it's like a temporary while they continue to make sure that they're fully eligible. So there's pending background checks and investigations that the state does before they can give them their full license.
Any questions from council?
Not
Councilmember Chanda?
Yeah, not particularly on this, but just out of curiosity, the previous business, they said that 3 violations over about 7 years. How frequently do we do these checks? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get, how many did they actually pass?
How many?
By and large, I mean, how frequently do we do
How many
this?
compliance checks has this location passed?
Yeah.
No, I don't have that.
That's okay, yeah. I mean, I was just curious to see, I mean, do we do like 5 checks every year, or is that 1 or 2, or?
So I know, go ahead.
Yeah, we do them at least twice yearly, so every single establishment selling liquor, either on premise or to go,
Okay.
at least twice a year, our DPU is taking minor decoys.
And the MLCC does as well.
Their own.
It has their own, and so any given year, it is 2 plus
Okay,
that are being conducted.
okay. Thanks.
I could research that, and next
No,
time
I
if
mean,
you
I
wanted
just,
to know, I
the
could have that
ballpark number,
answer
because
for you.
just trying to see, if you violate 3 out of 4, that is a serious issue, then maybe just, not that one violation is acceptable, but if you're violating quite a few, then a lot of minors are buying alcohol. So that's a bigger issue than 1 out of 100, let's say. I mean, again, that's not acceptable, but the risk is limited. I mean, just.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
The other 2, they had discussions with the owner to find out if the employee was fired, I think. I mean, I realize it's a different situation, but the standards probably should be the same. Are we looking to see if they were terminated?
So under these circumstances, since they are no longer operating and working in the business anymore, we were not able to get that information on how they responded to that employee or what they've done, because they're no longer selling alcohol in the city of Troy or anywhere, as far as we could tell at this point.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crango.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of a background question for all of these, because this is my first time as well. Are these all over the course of the calendar year of 2024, given the violations are different dates, and then they collect, and then there's a certain, is it a requirement that we have as a city in our ordinance, or the state has that then at some point in time, this is where we adjudicate these, or we have this conversation?
Well, so every time there's a liquor violation, whether it's a decoy or otherwise, somebody, there's a MLCC violation report that the Troy Police Department sends to MLCC so that they're aware of every single time. MLCC also gets tips on their own, and of course, they also do some compliance checks. I've seen some things on, I can't say who it was, but maybe a check bounce that they wrote to MLCC. I mean, that'll show up on this history. But the second part of your question?
I'm trying to, so this is the first time I've experienced this, and so wondering why didn't I have these last year, say in 2023? Why is this the first time I'm receiving them? And
it's more of a COVID thing, I believe.
Is it COVID? Okay, that's helpful to know. Because I realize the courts, I mean, there is a process, but, just wondering the council side of things, how this works out.
Prior to COVID, we did bring this to council every year. Sometimes we would have a hearing depending on whether or not the licensee was admitting responsibility or not. And so we would bring the decoy in and do a hearing for council to make a finding on whether or not there was a violation. And then ultimately, council could make a resolution whether to object to the license renewal with the MLCC. Again, but because of COVID, it was all paused for a short period of time. And so I believe these are our first setback since COVID.
Ironically, you would have had them in your first month or so because there were some scheduled in March of 2020, I believe, that got canceled when we went to Zoom. So
Thank you.
would have been your right off the bat. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. So if we were to approve this resolution, what does that give us if the licensee is the old owner and we require them prove to the Troy Police Department that their employees do training?
So
Is that for them to use the license somewhere else, or?
So we were actually seeking to have the owner of the new establishment submit the documentation showing that going forward, its employees, everyone there is certified or has the training required by state law. That way, there's a blank slate, and we're making sure that they're starting off on the best foot possible going forward. And so that is the request from city administration, is that we receive that documentation from the conditional license holder.
Can we also ask them if that employee's still working there, or?
Of course, that you could ask if you would like that information. You could do that.
It seems like we should apply the same standards, so I support doing that.
All right. That means I need to make a motion. Do I need to open this public hearing to make a motion to continue it?
To continue it, yeah.
Open it first? Go through that process? Public hearing's open. No one signed up to speak on this matter today and would like to speak on this matter. All right, I'll close the public hearing, and I will make a motion to continue the public hearing, E6 BP Gas John R. Petromart liquor license violation, to the regularly scheduled May 19th Troy City Council meeting.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chanda, that we approve the motion to continue E6 BP Gas liquor license violation till May 19th, 2025, as stated. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is E7, 7-Eleven Inc. and MCME Investment, 5020 John R. Road, liquor license violation. Again, Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
This 7-Eleven is located at John R. and Long Lake Road in the city of Troy. They've had an off-premises liquor license since 1975 in the city. There was a failed compliance check on April 22nd, whereby a clerk at the store sold alcohol to a minor. That clerk was cited and did admit responsibility, was assessed a fine. The 7-Eleven negotiated a settlement with the MLCC and was ordered to pay $800 fine. Since its inception about 50 years ago in the city of Troy, there have been 14 violations and at least 23 past compliance checks that I was able to count on the website. In response to this violation, we did receive correspondence from corporate counsel for 7-Eleven, ensuring that this specific franchisee has trained all of the employees and put up signage throughout the facility. There is, I believe, a representative from that 7-Eleven here this evening, and city administration is recommending proof of training.
I saw the letter from the corporate counsel. It doesn't mention the employee being terminated, correct?
That's correct. I would agree with you.
Okay. And the license holder is 7-Eleven Inc., not the franchisee?
So I believe they own the license together. They are both co-owners of the license.
Any other questions? All right, I'll open the public hearing for E7. I see one person is signed up, Nizan Rahman. Is that you?
Yes.
Please come forward, sir.
No, that's fine. Already, I don't need to say anything. Thank you. Oh, no, I'll sit. Sorry. Okay, good.
Please speak into the microphone.
This is my store. I'm sorry that it happened, but we went through all the trainings and everything for the 7-Eleven amphitheater, right? Right there, right? But my question, I received the letter from your office, and it's dated, violation date was April 22, 2025. So how that the big mistake could happen? You know, I was expecting whatever this kind of document comes from your office, it should be thorough and very accurate. So just, you know, in future, I want to pay more attention. That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Please take your seat. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? I see Deborah Luzecki.
Good evening. I hope you're going to extend this one also. This is third-party information, but there is quite a bit of stuff out about the high school in this 7-Eleven. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Please come forward. Tony Kappas. Anthony Kappas, sorry.
Council, I apologize. I wasn't intending on talking today, but I do have a question. When my wife and I went to Myers last week, and she had a 12-pack of beer, the cashier very calmly and quickly said, "I cannot sell you that without seeing your driver's license and putting that number into the cash register." I recognize that there's probably a cost involved in having that software on the premises, but in cases where businesses have multiple violations, it seems that since it's a privilege to be able to sell something like that, that maybe rather than a fine, it would be more appropriate to say, we'll let you continue selling it. However, you have to have this software or this program installed on your computers and on your cash registers so that you cannot physically sell it without checking a driver's license. I don't know, but to me it seems to make sense, and that's all I had to say. So have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Kappas. Joey Colby.
I'm still going to be able to speak for my public. Okay. So I'm a clinical social worker, and I work with students, and I have students that have told me, clients that have told me that they will be able, that they buy vapes from the 7-Eleven, and these are minors. I have no way to verify that, but that is what they have told me, and they have, you know, and it's, I've also driven by there, and I have seen a lot of teenagers. Now, I know that's kind of hearsay, but I have had clients that have problems with nicotine that are under the age of 21, and actually more in school, that have told me that they have, that is where they purchase their vapes. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? I'll close the public hearing. I have a question for the city attorney. Is there any issue with, I'm looking at the letter of the notice of public hearing, is there any issue with the violation date being stated April 22nd, 2025?
So it is unfortunate that that it is an incorrect date, but the information, again, that's a notice to appear here, and the information that is presented to council is the correct date. And so council would be acting on the date that is the correct date, the 2024 date. So no, yes, it's an anomaly, but again, the due process has been satisfied because they were told that there's a hearing tonight.
I appreciate that comment. I will say it's much more concerning to me that your establishment's selling alcohol to minors than a letter from the city hall has a wrong date on it. So keep that in mind. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to continue this public hearing till the regular Troy City Council meeting of May 19th.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, that we approve continuing the public hearing for E7 7-Eleven Inc. and MCAME Investment 5020 John R. Road liquor license violation to the regularly scheduled May 19th, 2025 Troy City Council meeting. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is E8, 7-Eleven and Jandu LLC, 2910 John R. Road liquor license violation. That'll be introduced by Nikki McMillan and Lynn Georgie.
This is the last violation that we have before council this evening. This 7-Eleven is located at John R. and Big Beaver in the city of Troy. This was not a compliance check or a decoy check. This is an instance where the police department had received a tip from a concerned parent that alcohol was being sold to minors on the premises. And so an investigation was done over the course of a couple days by the Troy Police Department, where they were able to corroborate the tip and observe alcohol being sold to minors in this instance. So because this is a little bit different, where it wasn't a compliance check, but instead more so a criminal investigation, the clerk in this case was charged with a crime and was prosecuted accordingly. The facility negotiated a settlement with the MLCC, and there was an $800 fine. In response to this violation, corporate terminated the franchise agreement with the franchisee and took over this location to attempt to rectify the situation where the franchisee was selling the alcohol to the minors. So at this point, the license is in the name of corporate 7-Eleven. However, they are seeking to have a new franchisee and a co-licensee. It's not at this time, it's not done, but they're working through the process of having that done. So in this case, I don't recall seeing in the letter whether or not the employee was terminated. I do know that he was criminally prosecuted. And so as with the other ones, city administration would be requesting that we receive proof of the certifications going forward from this location.
Thank you. Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Well, this one appears not just to be the one case with the employee, though. There are numerous violations. So I understand why it was terminated. Do you know how long that process will take, or where they're at?
The process of
like a new co-franchisee, or?
Well, the 7-Eleven franchise swooped right in. I mean, I spoke to Sergeant Parker, who's running our DPU unit. So they were very much interested in coming in right away and taking control. And I'm not an expert on any kind of computer systems, but I do believe that what was spoken about, where you manually have to enter information, I think that was also installed at this location. So the franchise 7-Eleven is owned by corporate. The new potential franchisee co-applicant, that's very new in process. It's not even conditional at this point. We actually just recently got that information. The Troy Police Department also does background checks, so MLCC does one, but so do we. So I have not done that yet because we just received it. But they were very much taking control of that situation. And you're right, it was really more than one tip. It was a known issue. MLCC had received tips from parents as well as the police department. So it really needed to be looked into. And they did it for several days, gathered lots of, I think were there 8 counts to that clerk? 8 counts of selling, so.
Additional questions? Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Following up on the question on the technology that Mr. Kappas mentioned, so I've seen that, Whole Foods, different places, Myers. That's not required then by the state of Michigan. That's just if the employer has resources and chooses to do that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Hamilton?
So I'm still not clear. Do we know that that employee was terminated then? We don't. Okay. They had 8 violations, I would think so, but I'd like to get that info too in lieu of everything else we've done.
Any other questions before I open the public hearing? Because there are a couple of people signed up. All right, I'll open the public hearing on E8. There are 2 people signed up. And again, you're not prohibited from speaking otherwise, but again, Majid Kesto, same comments, I bet? All right, Lisa Spiteri.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, I just wanted to let the board know that I had witnessed, when I was in the 7-Eleven a few months ago, that a minor was trying to buy alcohol, and they did not sell to the minor, and she, unfortunately, I also witnessed when she went outside, there was another minor screaming at her, what are we going to do if you don't get this alcohol? And the girl, there was a boy screaming at a girl, and the minor girl looked very afraid of him. And every time I go in there, there's a bunch of scary people nowadays that are buying little bottles of alcohol, I see. I grew up there in this area by the 7-Eleven, and since the time I was 12, I would walk there and buy a Slurpee and get candy, and they never served alcohol when I was young there. And I would have hated for my young self to have been exposed to these situations that I'm seeing there now. And I really don't feel that it is appropriate for 7-Eleven, who services minors with Slurpees and candy, so many minors go into this institution, to be serving alcohol and exposing that to our minors. Thank you.
That concludes those that have signed up to speak on this matter. Again, you're not prohibited from speaking. I see Deb Luzecki would like to come forward.
7-Eleven has to use a driver's license to sell liquor, and what I was told was happening is they would do it as gas, so that the license went in, but it was for a gas purchase. So I'm just asking for you to really look into this and maybe come up with something stronger, since we've got 2 of them right by a high school. And what I was told by the woman that tipped off the police, they got, 8 or 9 at that same time? So it's a well-known thing that the kids can go in there and get liquor. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Joey Colby?
As a clinical social worker who works with students in Troy School District, as well as neighboring areas, drinking is a problem. And if establishments continue to break these and commit these violations, it creates lifelong problems. And when students have access to alcohol and they have access to nicotine products, that creates lifelong problems. And I really would like this council to make sure that they're really looking to make sure that these problems are being nipped in the bud. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? All right, I'll close the public hearing. I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for E8 7-Eleven Inc. and Jandu LLC 2910 John R. Road liquor license violation to the May 19th, 2025 regular Troy City Council meeting.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, that we approve continuing the public hearing for this matter to May 19th. Any discussion? I just want to add that it's important to me to have the ownership, whether that's the corporate franchisor representative coming forward or the potential new franchisee, to understand the severity of this. And I'd like to know about that employee specifically. If they're terminating a franchise agreement, my expectation is that perhaps they're doing a sweep of some of the employees as well. Seems odd to be so extreme and not in the other, but yeah, I'm sorry that you had to come forward and do so much of this, but I appreciate you doing it. Any other discussion? Councilmember Hoderick?
I think it's right and appropriate that we are doing this second discussion. It has been a few years. This is one of those things, you know, COVID seems so far gone, but in many ways, culturally, societally, we're still knitting things back together in how we want to function and operate. And I'm actually really grateful to the Directed Patrol Unit, the two of you, my colleagues here, for reestablishing and reaffirming the foundation, which is to protect our young people to the best of our ability. And we held firm in these hearings in the years prior to COVID. We were tough, and we should be tough. And I'm really grateful that we are reestablishing that. So thank you.
Additional comments? I forgot to mention one thing. This community has a long history of protecting our children and working hard as it relates to alcohol, especially. The Troy Community Coalition has done a lot of good work over the years, and certainly one of the things about COVID has changed a lot of those norms and traditions that we used to have in this community. But I obviously, to some of the residents who came forward with information, potential new tips or things to be concerned about, we don't direct our police department to do anything specifically. That's outside of our role, but there are police officers in the room who are listening, and certainly ones that can likely do extra follow-up, I'm guessing, or extra whatever they do. We don't talk about it, but anyway, thank you. Vote. Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. That concludes public hearings this evening. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess, 5 minutes only, so we can get back on schedule. Thank you. All right, we'll go back on the record. Next up is public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I see Lisa Spiteri, who had spoken in E8 and is no longer here, had signed up, so I'm going to assume she's not going to speak again. And that's all that have signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, so there's no need for city council or administration reply. We have no postponed items. We'll move on to regular business. I1 is board and committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments this evening, but I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Gunn for city council appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one. Resolved that the Troy City Council appoints the following nominated persons to serve on boards and committees. The Charter Revision Committee for the term that expires on 4/30/2028, Robin Beltramini and Timothy Burns.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve the nominations of Robin Beltramini and Timothy Burns to the Charter Revision Committee for the terms expiring April 30th, 2028. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. We thank the two of them for continuing to serve. Next up is I2, board and committee nominations. I do have a mayoral nomination this evening. To the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, I move the nomination of Stephen Gottlieb for the term expiring April 30th, 2028.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve the nomination of Stephen Gottlieb to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the term expiring April 30th, 2028. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes mayoral nominations this evening. I don't believe there are any city council nominations this evening, so we move on to I3. There is a request for closed session. Be it resolved that Troy City Council shall meet in closed session as permitted by MCL 15.268E, Troy versus Cassani, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve I3, request for closed session, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Motion carries. At the conclusion of this public meeting, we'll recess and pick up in the boardroom for a closed session where I expect we will adjourn for the evening in there. Next up is I4, revisions to the Troy precinct map. That'll be presented by City Clerk Aileen Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. While we're waiting for the screen to come up. I've given a presentation to the Election Commission last week. They voted unanimously to approve the 2025 revisions to the precinct map. I'm not going to do the full presentation here because it was an hour and a half. So I will be doing a shortened version of that. So just to refresh your memory, this is the map that was passed in 2022 due to population increases from the 2020 census and also the state law at the time that required a maximum of 2,999 voters per precinct. So some of our precincts were close to being over that limit. So we needed to change the map to make sure that we weren't going to be in violation. Now, our new changes are because also there were changes in law since 2022 that changed the maximum of each precinct to 4,999 active registered voters. And also, we really needed, my comfort level was to have good data from a presidential election of how early voting and absentee voting had changed the behavior of voters in Troy. So now that we have gotten through the presidential election and early voting, has been a big success, I feel comfortable with changing the map and reducing the number of precincts, still within the 4,999 maximum, but we will be able to save money, we'll be able to save resources by having fewer precincts, but still not take away the experience of voting from voting in person at precincts from the voters, and also recognizing the popularity of early voting and also changes in behavior in absentee voting since 2020 is kind of an outlier, so since 2016. So a couple Mostly, the precincts were either combined with two precincts that were already in the same location, or they were simply moved to a different location, or there were no changes needed to their precincts. So I just want to highlight a couple that the changes were a little bit more complicated. So this would be the new precinct 9, and you can see the population of the total population for that entire area that's highlighted there is still only 2,831 active registered voters, and that took the precinct 32, a portion of precinct 4, and a portion of precinct 9, and we kind of smooshed them all together and put them into the new precinct 9, which would vote at the Salt Church on Livernois. The other side of that change in those precinct boundaries is the other half of precinct 4 and precinct 9, and that creates the new precinct 10, which is 1,976 registered active voters, and they would vote at First United Methodist Church. Some of those voters in both of those precincts would stay at the polling location that they were already voting in, and others would be going to a location that's still pretty close, but might be a slight change for them. So not too much disruption. We tried to keep disruption to a minimum for voters, but we had to recognize the need for the locations to be separate. The other big change that came to two of our precincts were precinct 27 and precinct 36. So precinct 36 is kind of the little section below Maple. We smushed those together, and they voted at the Troy Community Center before. They'll still continue to vote at the Troy Community Center, but they'll just be smushed together into one precinct instead of split into two. And again, it's I don't have the number up there, but it's like 2,500 registered voters. So should council approve the map tonight, the next steps would be the revisions will be entered into the qualified voter file and sent to the Bureau of Elections for approval and inputting. Their approval level is basically just to make sure that all of our districts are correct and everything that we send over to them. So they're going to kind of proof our work and then put it into the qualified voter file. The revised precinct map should be, all the changes and everything should be done prior to July 1st. There is a 120-day timeline that we're on, so we can't change the map after 120 days before the election. So we're aiming for July 1st to have all the changes made, everything entered in QVF, and then to have our new voter information cards sent to the printer already for sending out. So every voter in Troy, regardless of whether you had changes or not, we're just sending a voter information card to all voters. Also, we're doing a household mailer, just kind of more of a jazzier mailer that would highlight the fact that the map's changed, and then also provide a QR code that voters can go to check out all the information about the new map. We'll have a web page on the city website dedicated to the new map. We're also going to be, I'm already working with Kayla in the manager's office to have social media, advertise in the newspaper, advertise in Troy Today. We're going to have our clerk's tent out at whatever events we can manage to do between now and the election, as well as any other events that kind of pop up. We have posters that we're going to order, just like last year when we had posters in all of the city buildings offering information about what was happening at each election. We're going to plan on doing that for the map information, as well as having signage at all the affected locations. So any polling location that had a change, whether it was a new number or whether if it was people were moved or whatever, we're going to have signs on election day at all the locations letting people know. And then also we're going to really focus on providing specific greeters at the locations that had changes so that they have iPads so they can stand at the door and help people make sure that they know where they're supposed to go. And with that was very quick, but I want to give a special shout out to Alex Bellick and Kevin Fowler in IT because they're our GIS gurus and they did a fantastic job helping us. And I remember, I've been here long enough to remember the days of having a big map and a chart and a highlighter and then making the changes that way. So GIS is great. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you so much, Clerk Dixon, for all that you do and everyone that works so hard in the clerk's office. My question is, could this potentially be even consolidated a little further? Would there be any benefit? Because I'm looking at my precinct, which was 6, now it's 5. and we're the only ones at the Nature Center. I love voting at the Nature Center, but I'm just wondering, you know.
So the reason why 6 became its own precinct is 5, which is nearby, and 31, which is nearby, are 2 separate school districts. So 6 is the Troy School District, but 5 is Avondale, and 31 is Bloomfield Hills. So there is such a thing as a split that you can do where you have 2 different districts or 2 different school districts or whatever in the same precinct. But that creates a situation where the workers and the voters have 2 different ballot styles, and the workers have to know which ballot style goes to which voter, and it's very complicated to administer. So we felt that even though 6 is small, the Nature Center is a small location, and it's, people really love voting at the Nature Center. So like I was saying, whenever we could avoid disruption, we tried to take that. So if we were to take 6 out of the Nature Center, then the Nature Center would no longer be a polling location. So we chose to keep 6, or, it's 5 now, sorry, I think that's we chose to keep 6 where it is and just change the number to 5. So that's where our logic is.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Gunn.
Also, thank you, Eileen. Phenomenal job, but I got a couple questions. So we're going from 37 to 27 precincts, right?
Yes.
Is there any consideration, it looks like we're up 9,000 votes over the last couple years, but most of those are early voting. Is there any consideration to even consolidate a little bit more if we're having that much early voting?
Yes, so early voting may increase at the next presidential election. This map, just so you understand, when I decided to do this map, it was last year before the presidential election, and I know my process. So I had the big maps all over the wall, and I just was looking at them, and I was thinking about every single location, the logistics of each location, parking, how to enter, how to exit, and I consolidated to a point where I felt comfortable with the capacity that each location could handle, and the parking, and whether there were lines in November. And I don't want to stress out any location and create a situation where we have, an hour-long line at a location, even on a presidential election. So even though early voting will probably continue to take more people away from voting in person, I don't want it to be at the expense of creating a situation where there could be a line on a busy election day at a location.
With that consolidation, how much are we saving?
In wages, it's, I believe I think I had it in here.
Not enough for a library.
I believe it was, I have it done. I'm not used to doing 2 computers at the council meeting. So I believe it was $1,800 in wages per precinct for a busy election like the presidential. So we would be saving that for the presidential. I believe it's $1,800 per location per.
18,000?
Yeah, and then plus, we have a team of guys from DPW who handle all the deliveries of all the equipment to the locations. Less locations, less precincts means less time for them. Sure. So, we're saving resources there. Plus, we have to keep in mind, in 2027 or so, we're going to be purchasing a new voting system because the current system, the 10-year mark, will expire. So we'll be able to purchase 27 systems, give or take, 27 sets of machines, give or take, instead of 37. And yes, we could, I understand, we could consolidate down further, but I don't want to risk having big lines at the precincts on a busy election day like a presidential.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. I like the idea of this. You kind of covered this when you talked about school districts, but do all these precinct changes not cause any crossover of county commission districts, state senate, state house, congressional? I think we're all District 11. They're all still, I know we have 7 school districts in the city, so there's no, because I know I've seen in other communities where they do have the split precincts, and yeah, I agree with you that that's just, why would we shouldn't do, so I haven't gone through everything, but I'm just, to ask it, are we all still good? All the precincts have their own distinct ballots, basically?
Yes, so that was one of my primary goals, was to make sure that we did not have splits in any precinct. So anytime precincts were combined together, they were the same of all districts. So they were the same county commissioner, they were the same school district. So for example, 25, the new 25 down at the bottom, that has a different state senate district and a different school district. So there's no way I was going to combine that with 24, because that would have created a split where we would have one ballot style for all the voters in both of those. So anytime there was a Royal Oak School District ballot question or something like that, we would have to have two separate ballots. So that was one of the primary focuses when I was looking at this. And again, that could be an explanation for why, like, well, why wouldn't you combine those two together? That's another reason. It's just to make sure that we did not get into a situation where we had splits. They're very difficult. We've had splits in the past, way long time ago, when I was still an office assistant, and I remember how awful it was. So I'm like traumatized by it. So yeah, my first priority is always to try not to have splits if it's at all avoidable.
Then my second question is, early voting last year was insanely successful. I also know the lines were very long.
Yes.
So is there more we can do to reduce those lines, to have more machines, more workers?
So as you know, we are in an agreement with Oakland County, and so we did have a meeting in December, January, kind of a recap meeting with the county and all the clerks that are in those agreements. And the county told us that going forward, we're going to have more check-in stations, we're going to have more tabulators, we're going to have more flexibility, and so. It was last year was our first year of doing early voting, so we kind of just went with it, but we all learned a lot. And so then when we went to this meeting, all the clerks are really like, they're kind of control freaks. So we were like, we want this, we want this, we want this. So we did make all of our demands to the county, and the county is like, we are going to meet as many of your demands as we possibly can in order to make sure that you can be successful, and more flexibility for bigger elections, having more equipment available to us, but even just in general, having more equipment. It was just the presidential election of November, we didn't have anything to compare it to. So there was no way to know what to expect. And so now we know what to expect, so we can prepare for it better.
Yeah, I know. I had my absentee ballot last year, and I wanted to come early, I think on a Saturday, to drop it off. And they're like, oh, it's an hour and a half wait. I'm like, all right, I'll just throw it in the mailbox.
And that was common in every location. So just so you know, the location at the Troy Community Center was the fifth or sixth busiest location in the entire state. We also processed the 1 millionth early voter in our location, so that was kind of exciting. We didn't have 1 million, obviously, but we processed the 1 million in the state. And another thing that they're looking at is potentially creating a situation where we could branch off people, so we could have a separate line for people that are just turning in their absentee ballots, or people that it would be very troublesome for them to have to stand in a long line. So that's the kind of flexibility that we could be able to offer in the future.
How many people did that? If that's a specific question.
We processed like 10,500 voters through the community center.
And then how many of those were absentees that they brought in?
Oh,
if you can remember,
it was like 10, 15%, something like that.
That's a lot.
20%,
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
So
Okay,
it was a few thousand, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was enough where it was definitely noticeable that this was an issue that needed to be resolved. So, but by the time we knew that it needed to be resolved, it was too late to resolve it. So now going forward, we have more information and we can prepare for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crankle?
Thank you, Mayor. Clerk Dixon, we're so grateful for your expertise. I can tell, like, you love this. You're good. You're great at this. When I first saw the item, I thought, wow, we just went through this a couple years ago. But anything that can save resources, time, money, I mean, that's wonderful. When it comes to the communication, you guys, your office does a brilliant job with all communication. And I love just seeing the list on page 4. Will that begin then kind of in August after it goes into effect in July 2025? Is that when people will see the new cards and start seeing some of the communications?
As soon as we can get the information into QVF, then, because that's what produces the voter information cards, then we will be able to get those to the printer. Hopefully that'll be before July 1st. I don't know what the state time frame is right now for getting those changes made, but as soon as those changes are made, we will get that list to the printer to get those information cards printed. And then I've already started working with Kayla in the manager's office to get our list of projects together and, what we're going to do and the information and the theme and all that stuff. So we've already started working on it.
Amazing. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Thank you. You mentioned that you reviewed this with the Election Commission that we have. Can you speak to that for a minute about, it sounds like it was a long meeting, what their reaction was to this? Because their input in the process is important, not only to us, but I think to our fellow residents from both parties who want to see it represented.
Yes, the presentation that I gave to the Election Commission was about 25 slides, and we went deep dive into every single precinct, why we're doing what we're doing, all the precincts that are getting changed, and even why we're not changing the ones that we're not changing. And they had lots of good questions about, well, why is this one and not that one or whatever. And we had this great discussion that was like an hour and a half long of just covering, it was a very, like, I can't even express how deep of a dive it was into every little square on that map. And they felt very comfortable with it after all of that education. And that presentation, we'll make that available on the map website once we get that map page updated and all the documents on there. They'll have, people can look at the presentation that was given to the Election Commission and this item and everything. But at the end of all of that, they were very, very happy with the reasoning and the savings that this is going to bring us, as well as, just keeping in mind the voters, like at all times, of what is best for the voters, what's best for the city, and stuff like that. They were very impressed and happy with it.
Thank you. Councilmember Tanda.
Whatever I wanted to ask actually has already been asked, so just wanted to thank you. I mean, it's a wonderful work. Just one clarification. I think you mentioned it. Are we changing the number of polling places? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So unfortunately with the new map, we are losing 2 locations. We've loved working with these locations. However, it's just not practical to keep 20 locations when really we really could only need 18. So we are saying goodbye to the Bridge Church and Bethesda Church.
So what's the maximum number of voters in one polling location?
There is not a maximum number in the polling location. It's
doesn't
just you
matter.
have to
It's
keep
by
in-
precinct.
Yeah, it's more like if you overmax your polling location and there's parking issues and there's lines and there's trouble getting in and out of the building, you're going to hear about it. So, and you don't want to do that to people when they're trying to go vote in person. So you always have to keep that in mind. So there's no like limit in law of how many voters you can have at each polling location. Yeah.
I think it's also going to help the early voting if you consolidated number of precincts, I guess. I mean, it's, I don't know if you
So
did.
every aspect of voting will see a reduction in costs.
Cost, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'd like to move I-4 revisions to Troy precinct map as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig, that we approve I-4 revisions to Troy precinct map as printed in the agenda packet. Any further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Aileen. Next up is I-5, Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Inclusive Park Play Structure, Bolin Park, and Budget Amendment to be presented by DPW Director Kurt Bovenstein.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Just as a reminder, Council approved this reprogramming back in January. It includes funds that date back all the way to 2018. We've gone through a lot of different ideas. We've attempted to do a lot of different things since 2018. I think we landed finally on something successful, although with HUD funding, there's always a curveball. There was some curveballs with this one as well, but I think we're finally there. So what we're proposing is to develop an inclusive park, replace the current play structure at Bolin Park. This is going to be a multi-phase project because of the funding constraints. The first phase was determined to be best suited to have the initial large play structure. When we met with the small group at ARC of Oakland County, they all agreed that don't necessarily concentrate on the comfort station or the restrooms, concentrate on the park itself and leave the restrooms to the last. So this first phase does include some pretty cool play structures through landscape structures. If you're anything like me, when we looked at this play structure, it doesn't scream inclusive at all. But inclusive is more than just ramps and ADA accessibility. Inclusive is developing a park that everyone, regardless of abilities, can play together. This particular play structure, although you don't see the traditional ramps to get up there, it has an entire system internally inside that structure for people with mobility issues to be able to pull themselves up through the structure. So again, if you're like me, you would look at that and go, how would someone who is in a wheelchair participate and play? And this is actually the preferred method now for people with mobility issues to play, because they are playing so closely with other kids that don't have mobility issues. So just a couple different pictures here. I know it's been a long meeting, so I'll kind of bruise through these. These will be posted as a late, or actually I think these are actually part of your agenda packet. So again, you can see that pull-up system there, a real good image with that. We're proposing some traditional swings, some swings that have some more, some restraints to them. Again, first phase is what we're looking at here. So again, planning for much bigger. We didn't want to stop there, so we're looking at different. This is the first phase includes a 5 to 12-year-old play structure, looking to add different amenities throughout in the additional phases. If I can get the slides to advance. That's the last.
Oh, that's.
No, that should be one more. Not advancing. Well, I apologize. The slide after this was supposed to show the actual different phasing in it. So what you're looking at here outside of the proposed $650,000 HUD investment for the first phase, additionally, it's a $2 million project. So it's a lot of money. However, with this phased approach, with this master plan, we're looking forward to applying for other grants outside of the CDBG funding to hopefully get this a lot sooner than at $125,000 a year, take us 20 years to get there. So we're hopeful that taking the effort and actually master planning this, it'll make us eligible for some other grants.
Thank you. Questions for Kurt? Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I'd read somewhere about a fence or the conversation with ARC. Is that in a second phase or is that around one of these?
Yep, so if I go back to the first phase, that black dashed line, I apologize, it's kind of skewed there. The black dashed line around is the fence to contain the first phase. And then when you look at the master plan, that fence grows to have the entire, all phases fenced in together.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. This is phenomenal. I don't think we have a play structure that comes even close to this. I showed it to my daughter Victoria, and she gave her approval. Then she asked if I was going to build it. I said, no. I have no idea how. But I'm going to ask the question I always ask, timeline. What are we looking at?
So it's timeline, we're about 3 months out from actual the landscape structures manufacturing, and then you're about another month out for the installation of this. We will probably be coming back to City Council to reprogram the 2024 funds, which is funding the mid-block crossing on Lakeview, the pedestrian crossing on Lakeview. Those bids came in less than what we expected, so we'll have approximately about $54,000 to reprogram back to this, which the timing will be perfect because we'll need that money to do some of the earthwork.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
So is my understanding in reading this, we get $125,000 a year towards this project?
So we there's several components to the community development block grant. There's a larger grant awarded to the city of Troy. We use a portion, we use actually the maximum amount we can for our Home Shore program, which is services our seniors and people with disabilities, cutting their grass, doing their snow, cleaning their gutters. The remaining balance of that can go towards projects like this. Every year we'll have to have a public hearing to program those funds, but the intent is to recommend using every year's funds for this project. Yes.
So we need 630,000 transferred from the rainy day fund to the capital.
So there is no general fund or capital funds being proposed for this project. This is all community development block grant funds. This is a reimbursement grant program. So why you're seeing is that budget amendment is because we didn't anticipate spending the full amount. So what we're asking is we have to have the money in the capital account to spend it and then to get reimbursed. And that transaction, because the county is so anxious to get this off the books, will probably happen all by Wednesday. We'll make all of those transactions by Wednesday.
Good, thank you.
We've been not spending the CDBG funds since 2018.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
You asked already, Councilmember Chanda.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, first of all, it's phenomenal. I mean, I went there today, the day off, and is this play structure, is that going to be at where the current play structure is? Is that exactly the same location? We're going to replace that?
That is correct. This is replacing the current play structure. We will probably keep, so the closest to the restrooms is your 5 to 12. Your furthest from the restrooms currently is the 2 to 5. We will probably keep the 2 to 5 play structure in place until we get the funds to replace that one too. So we'll have the inclusive, although the fencing won't be all inclusive because it won't encapsulate the old one, but with phasing, it becomes a little difficult.
So that $630,000 will do all this, everything that within the fencing.
Yeah, the $630,000 is what's shown there, is replacing that play structure closest to the restroom and making it more of inclusive play for 5 to 12-year-olds.
All right, yeah. Thanks.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga.
Thank you. So you mentioned, Director Bovisi, we're 3 months out. So that means like July, we may see then, because my son does a lot of play dates here, exactly in this location. It's a replacement. Like how long, do you expect in the summer, July, in the midst of the season? How long does it take to get it up?
I would expect this to be completed in the fall. By the time the play structure is manufactured, we get on the books to actually do the installation. Part of the problem is these landscape structures specifically, and then Ventura, who's doing the installation, they've already made a lot of commitments to school districts because that's the time they do most of their construction in the summer. So I'm expecting, even though that may be manufactured in 3 months, the installation it may be August, September before we actually get installation, and then a month or two to complete the project.
Okay, that makes sense. So 3 months is just the manufacturing. Got it. That's great, actually.
And certainly you will minimize the time that there's no play structure there at all.
Absolutely.
Not tearing down the old one today?
Yes, we're not tearing down the old one today.
All right. Any other questions? Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga.
Mayor, I'll move I-5, Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Inclusive Park Play Structure, Bullen Park, and Budget Amended as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga, supported by Councilmember Chanda, that we approve I-5 Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Inclusive Park Play Structure, Bullen Park, and Budget Amendment as printed in the agenda packet. Any additional discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I-6 Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, NASPO and Oakland County Cooperative Purchases, Bid Waiver and Budget Amendment, Emergency Communications Center Renovations and Upgrades, Troy Police Department. That'll be introduced by our Police Chief Josh Jones, and I see Sam Kaleff, our Communications Manager, is here too.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I'm happy to introduce Bid Waiver and Budget Amendment I-6, Emergency Communications Center Renovations and Upgrades. I did bring Communication Manager Sam Kaleff with me. If you have any technical questions that are likely not in my wheelhouse, it's also a big project of his. The police department houses the City of Troy's Emergency Communication Center that processes over 34,000 emergency 911 calls, along with nearly 100,000 non-emergency calls on a yearly basis. The communications center was originally designed and furnished over 20 years ago when the police department building was constructed. Since the construction, there have been no major renovations. As technology and the demands of the job for communications staff have evolved over the years, the dedicated work areas and functionality must also change and adapt to the advances in public safety and response-based applications and programs. Currently, the center is furnished with 5 communication consoles that provide 911 phone access, administrative phone processing, a county-based CAD system, statewide radio system console, local PC stations, and security monitoring software for the police department and city hall. The upgrades and renovations proposed will add a 6th communication console to the floor and provide focused work areas that contain brand new consoles with enhanced monitor displays, individual task lighting, upright work mobility options, and ample storage for needed reference materials. When we began planning this project in 2022, the estimated cost to replace the console was $90,000. However, the requested budget amendment is for an additional total of $201,600. This includes increased material costs, electrical infrastructure updating that was determined to be needed during the planning, and funds for the IT contractual support needed to set the Emergency Communication Center up with a temporary location in the Emergency Operations Center while the upgrade takes place. This item is listed as a bid waiver by virtue of all work will be completed within co-op agreements and the council equipment met sole source provisions. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions?
That must have been a good,
Such a good
well-written presentation.
I'll move I-6, standard purchasing resolution for NASPO and Oakland County Cooperative Purchases, bid waiver and budget amendment, emergency communication center renovations and upgrades, Troy Police Department, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, that we approve I-6 as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? It's a critical component to our city's public safety. Good to see you 2 meetings in a row, Sam. But thank you very much. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes regular business this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I just saw, I know we don't usually talk about easements, but on J8 and J9 is about the TAP Pathways projects. And I just had a question on what is the latest timeline on the TAP projects coming up? I drive down Square Lake around Kensington Church, where there's that sidewalk gap there, and I know these TAP grants are covering that, so I'm curious, Kurt. I'm always bothering Kurt with these questions.
I see Kurt coming up. Is that your preference of answer responses?
Yeah.
All right.
I saw him walking.
It is for this topic, yes.
All right.
So we are still in the design phase, so I don't have a construction, council will bring a proposed award when we actually bid that out. So stages are meeting with property owners. We have a meeting this week, I believe, with Troy School District to talk specifically about the school there at Square Lake and how the sidewalk in relation to the parking lot, because there's some narrow width there. So meeting with Rob Carson, again, I think this week or next week. So completely in the design phase. There's still some easements that we need or to purchase some right of way right now. So if I had to guess, we're probably looking at a construction in spring of 2026.
Makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the most critical sidewalk gaps in the whole city. I see people riding their bikes or walking in that narrow gap between the brush and the street there, because you go to the church there, Councilmember Hoderick. So I was so excited to see this project. So thank you for the update. We'll keep on it.
Any further discussion on the consent agenda? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. If you're here for an item on the consent agenda, all have been approved. Thanks for waiting. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items. K1 is announcement of public hearing. May 5th, 2025 will be the public hearing for the adoption of the 2025-2026 annual budget, which is online as proposed, and you can also look on YouTube to see our budget study session from the 14th, a week ago, specific to that. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We do have 4 people signed up this evening, 4 people who have spoken before and know the rules. So 3 minutes for each of you. When the light turns yellow, you have 1 minute left. When the light turns red, that is your time. First up is David Niffen.
Good evening. Dave Niffen, 5501 Boros. I recently attended the bond proposal meeting, and regardless of my feelings towards the bond, I was mostly taken back, frankly embarrassed, by what could best be described as group humiliation, ambush, or bullying of Councilman Gunn, when he merely offered a suggestion that the city should look towards other ways of bringing in money. The entire interaction was juvenile and unbecoming of city council. Turning a positive suggestion around with a demand to deliver immediate solutions and answers was, on the spot, was unprofessional and ill-received by those of us watching. But it was also improper given the scope of that meeting. As citizens, we expect our leaders to embrace suggestions and take them under consideration rather than to rebut them with immediate scrutiny, because quite frankly, he had the right idea. And nobody could be expected to give an impromptu revenue presentation off the cuff, especially when they just had the idea. However, since it seemed to be the mindset of council that their hands are tied and no other options exist to create revenue, I wanted to counter by throwing out a handful of ideas that could be explored. Some are even being explored the next town over. Rochester Hills funded one of the best parks in Metro Detroit called Innovation Hills through donations. This intuitive thinking was probably why they have nice things in Rochester Hills while also proclaiming they are a debt-free city. In other cities, they do fundraisers like selling engraved bricks to fund public projects and raise extra cash. This would have been a great fit for the ice rink out here to bring in extra cash. Outside of fundraising, which has been absolutely been proven to work, this city has intangibles they could sell rather than selling the parks as it was suggested by somebody. Why not sell the naming rights to the park for a set number of years? Why not sell banner space inside the parks to the local businesses? This would show a partnership between the city and these businesses and help them grow. Advertising can generate substantial revenue stream over and over again. Just like this Troy Today publication that I assume is paid by our tax money, why doesn't it sell ad space to at least cover the costs of printing and distribution? The Troy Times here sells ad space, and they seem to be sustainable with just that. With that said, I think everybody expects better, from the way people treat each other to the pursuit of fresh ideas without the fear of being ridiculed. And it starts from the top down. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Niffen. Next up is Cheryl Kappas. And Ms. Kappas did provide a handout to all of us through the city clerk's office.
Thank you, City Council, for letting me speak this evening. I've been here before with issues on the wastefulness of city services. Tonight, I want to put it on record as the issue that's happening right now on Eckford Drive. After the road construction that was done on Eckford in October of 2024 and this past winter, we now have the road washing away, leaving holes and runoff where the construction was done. I provided pictures, as you see. There's also a makeshift drain that was done that is being held open by some kind of a piece of wood and a PVC pipe that is a hose hooked to it leading to somewhere on property that doesn't even belong to the builder that this construction was originally done for. This is happening because builders are continually allowed to build on wetlands and disturb the watershed. Now, my question to you, City Council, when the road is paved, which I heard is going to be before the end of the year, when the sinkhole happens, who are we going to hold accountable? Who's going to be doing the repairs? How many times is the council going to let this wastefulness by builders come in, do their building and leave, happen before you look at the ordinance and start holding them accountable? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kappas. Next up is Tyler Fox.
Hello. How are y'all doing tonight? I want to thank you guys for creating time. I know this has been a very long council meeting, so I will attempt to keep this concise. I'm here mainly to express appreciation for the consideration that you guys have been giving over the past couple of meetings for a humane animal ordinance within the city. I know that this is a very busy time of year with the budget and everything, and I know that this is a very busy year in general with a lot going on. So I appreciate the thoughtful conversation that you all have had in regards to the topic. You know, when the folks from Pause Friend Network asked me to swing by just to make sure that the conversation continues going, I know it's one of those things that, you know, council's working on and you guys are looking at surrounding communities and everything that they're doing in regards to the humane animal ordinance. So thank you. It is something that residents care about, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to consider it and go over it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Next up is Joey Colby.
Good evening. My name is Joey Colby Bernert. I live on 5125 Shady Creek Drive. On March 14th, an executive order was signed to greatly defund the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the only federal agency that funds programs like MELCAT, our statewide interlibrary loan system. This defunding will also affect library subscriptions to electronic resources, research databases, and test prep materials as well. In 2024, the Troy Public Library patrons checked out over 10,000 items through MELCAT. That service is now at risk. The library has confirmed to this council that the federal cuts will impact library services. Test prep for the ACT, SAT, LSAT, and MCAT, the kind of support that TDS students rely on, are going to be cut. You're a lawyer. You're a doctor. You both have you've done the LSAT, you've done the MCAT. You know how important test prep is. And so what I'm trying to get at here is that these are real local consequences for real people in our community. I also want to encourage residents to attend the City Council and Zone Boarding meeting next Monday, April 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the library, as these conversations affect all of us. As the city pursues a new bond to build a library, we need to be honest about the financial reality. The bond was already necessary. The library has outgrown its space. But now, with federal support withdrawn, more of the cost falls onto us, the taxpayers. Services that were federally supported must now be covered locally. So I'm asking this council again, adopt a resolution condemning the March 14th executive order. It affects us locally, and acknowledge the harm that it is causing to our library and our historic village. You can't reverse the order, but you can make it clear that Troy will not quietly absorb harm while asking residents to pay more. This is not about a building. This is not about service. This is about the services inside that building. And the library services, the library staff and historic staff and the historic village staff of the City of Tomorrow deserve more than your silence. They deserve action. Please, I am asking you, please pass the resolution that I sent you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colby. That concludes those who have signed up for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Now is an opportunity for council and administration to respond. I'm going to start. Mr. Kniffen, I appreciate you coming forward. I understand you have strong feelings about some of these issues. I've seen your comments on social media. I don't think Mayor Pro Tem Gunn and I have any beef between us. I've spoken with him a few times since that meeting, and I think that if there really was an issue, he would bring it up to me himself. I know Mark real well. If he's going to you for it, I find that hard to believe. So I don't know what your point was in coming forward on that, but know that we respect each other at this table, and we've been talking about these issues for a long time, long before you were attending meetings and watching. So if any passionate feelings seemed to rub you the wrong way, I don't think they necessarily did Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, and if so, he and I will continue to talk about it as we do, and any of us would. That said, I just want to put on the record, I have no interest in selling banner space or ad space in our parks to dirty them up and clutter them up. Our community doesn't seem to be interested in that kind of thing, as evidenced by their fight against billboards, extra signage, and things like that. Also, I'm very suspect of that could create the type of revenue that would solve any of our capital infrastructure concerns. But thank you for coming forward and presenting more ideas. I know Mayor Pro Tem Gunn has also presented similar ideas via email. Ms. Kappas, I know you and your husband were speaking to city management prior to this meeting. I don't know if no, I saw Tony over there. Maybe it was something unrelated. I appreciate you coming forward. I will continue to I'm going to look at these pictures and find out what the issue really is, and I'm hearing a lot of things about that development lately. So it'll continue to be looked at least by me. Thank you, Mr. Fox. I appreciate you bringing your concerns and passion forward as well. And Mr. Colby, same as you, I'll read your email. I know you sent something with a proposed resolution. There's a lot going on, obviously. Our library director did speak briefly on this last week of the meetings, and her statement at that meeting was, yes, it would affect the library. She was unclear as to how it would affect at this time. So I'm a fan of waiting to see exactly what information could be forthcoming from our experts in the departments. Sorry, I chose to go first. Additional council reply or city management reply. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crankton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll address Mr. Colby's point. So a question I was going to bring up during budget, I was trying to limit my questions, but related to the wider question of how our nonprofits with whom we have a relationship with, and we run the property of the Troy Historic Village, Stage Nature Center. I don't know how the Nature Center is impacted, if they are at all, by any humanity grants losses, but we know from Jen Peters that the village, of course, is impacted. She had said it may impact some programming, but it should not have a major impact on residents. But altogether, would love if we can just keep our eye on that, and if at some point we are hearing of critical needs. This has been a council that has stepped in during COVID when our nonprofits had funding challenges. We chose to provide, it was temporary, but to step in for some support, because those are major assets that are so important to the city. My understanding with Melcat is we don't know yet. Melcat is something my husband in particular for his academic research uses. It allows you to access academic libraries all over the state of Michigan. I use it a lot, so it would be a major loss. There's talk that maybe the state could pick up some of that. So before we take action, I think we just do need some information. And so I just do hope that we continue to monitor it and that we have a sense of support, again, for these nonprofits and land that we own and that we could support if need be. Other quick question, I'll go to Mr. Kappas. Maybe I've said this before. This is a city that I know there is a history when there is wrong done by a developer in the process of development, it is sought to hold accountable when it can. I do know an example when I was talking with folks on the phone that when a developer, it was Mondrian, by accident destroyed some trees and shrubs to a neighboring property when they were doing a development. I know a former city manager did ask and successfully got Mondrian to replace those and to care for that. So if there's damage happening to your property or anyone's property that is impacted by a development, I do think there is a history that we find ways to support that. Do please keep us posted. Again, there's no guarantee, but let us know.
Mayor Pro Tem Gunn.
And to Mr. Colby, I don't think we're allowed to attend those planning commission meetings, are we?
That's our joint meeting. We'll be at that meeting. It's our joint meeting with
joint
Planning
one?
Commission.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I think he was inviting the public to attend
Gotcha.
at the library, 6 p.m. on Monday, the 28th. But otherwise, you're correct. We're not allowed to attend Planning Commission meetings by our ethics ordinance or by rules of council. Councilmember Hamilton.
I just want to briefly mention regarding Rochester Hills, that Rochester Hills has a more than 10% higher tax rate than the city of Troy. Also, they have to pay their trash pickup out of pocket as well. So if we compare I know Innovation Hills was a unique case, but when you compare cities like that, we're already starting from a lower base of revenue. So take that as you're factoring in how you compare our communities. As far as Mr. Colby, if the result of this executive order is what you're describing, and it would, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I'm definitely open to that kind of resolution. If it's a topic that directly affects city services that for many, many years was provided by the federal government and that's cut off, I would support that kind of resolution. But I do agree, I would like to get more information to see what's actually going to happen with that.
Councilmember Hodering.
Yeah, regarding the library, I want to make sure that Mr. Colby heard, we did talk about this with our library director, this very topic at the budget study sessions, and she said the entire Michigan librarian team is watching. So we're standing by to understand better what will unfold and what the options are. So we're not disregarding you and talking. Thank you. Regarding the discussion at the study session with the bond, I actually tried to make sure, I said several times to Mayor Pro Tem Gunn that he was asking good questions, and if there was a pickup of frustration or whatnot from some of us that have been on council for a long time, it's because it's answered some of these questions that are newer to some of our folks. I've kind of been there and done that. So my apologies if I came across as dismissive of such questions. I'm not. I actually felt very good in that meeting that the questions were on the table and that we had a collective discussion about them and the ideas. And I appreciated that he brought them forward and we did entertain them. I personally feel like I have a really good relationship with every member of council and respect each of them and what they bring, and I respect what Mayor Pro Tem Gunn brings from his business perspective and his business questions. I'm just so fully aware of it's not a business, and we're not municipal governance and municipal finance, and the ability to raise revenue from advertising might pay for programs, some programs. It's not going to solve our very serious and very real capital needs. So again, for residents watching, if you picked up on tension, it was more we had a very authentic, very real, very open discussion that I didn't feel was argumentative. I felt was very candid, and I hope that's what it felt to you, Mayor Pro Tem Gunn, because I did appreciate the questions and the ideas brought forward. Conversations about things like bonds and millages tend to bring out emotions and reactions and judgments and assumptions. And clearly we're already starting to see that. I think an assumption that I would beg my fellow residents to make is that we're working in good faith, and that we're working with the best expertise that can be brought to us by our city staff that do the day-to-day 24/7, 365 work as a policy setting body, that we're really trying to do our best. And if it feels like we're not, please feel free to reach out. This is a conversation that we've been having for several years, and the community's now catching up with us, and I will coach myself to be patient with newer folks to the discussion. And I appreciate you bringing forward your candor of how you took that conversation, but I really felt very differently and felt like it was a really good, solid idea sharing and sussing out of other options, and I appreciated that it happened that night. So, thank you.
Any additional council reply or management reply? All right, next up, we have no council referrals this evening. There are several reports. Would anyone like to speak to any of the reports? Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you for the update on EMS. I know the next step is an RFP to enhance the service that we have now. I know this is a long discussion we've had on our EMS service and possibly in-housing it or expanding our current third-party option. I know there was no timeline specifically mentioned here. I do know it mentioned in previously when we put out an RFP in August that the contract wasn't approved till December, but we're trying to expedite that process. City Manager Nastasi, can you talk about that more and what that process is looking like, and when do you see some action on the RFP coming to council and whatnot?
I recently had some meetings with Universal, so we can kind of like bring in the scope of the RFP. I have more meetings with another private vendor this week, so I should know more by the end of this week. But yes, we are expediting and trying to get it out quick because we are on the timeline, because it does, the contract currently ends in December. So we'll have more forthcoming as these meetings progress.
Right, and as we previously discussed, even if we did in-house the service, it would take time. It would take 18 plus months. So we're still, if we want to, our priority here is to improve our response times. So there will be some kind of new proposal needed to bridge that gap and with also improving service. So either way, this is coming up. So thank you for the update.
Thank you. Additional comments on the reports? All right, council comments. Councilmember Hamilton.
I was thinking about talking about this earlier when we were doing the liquor hearings, but I figured it'd make more sense here. I am curious on what options are available to us as a city to better enforcement of that. I know a lot of this is the Michigan Liquor Commission, is a lot of it's state law and state action, but I am curious like what as a city can do to enhance the enforcement of that. I know our Directed Patrol Unit's doing a great job of that regardless, but I'm curious what the range of legal options we have compared and what other communities do to, tamp that down. I just remember in high school, I was mentioning this earlier, that I remember growing up that Troy was usually pretty good about that kind of enforcement, and that it was Troy kids at the time that were doing that kind of thing would go to other communities. So I'm curious to see if there's council consensus to get kind of more information on what we are doing and what we can do to improve that enforcement if needed.
So,
City Attorney Bloom.
So I guess there are two aspects, and I just want to make sure. I can certainly tell you what the legal end of it is, and I can also tell you that we are probably more aggressive than most of the other communities around us. And the fact that we hold these hearings, that is unusual, and that is something that is not done by a lot of the surrounding communities. As far as the enforcement, we bring them to you once a year. And I know that the police department, that they do several checks, as you heard today, so I wasn't sure if that was what you were looking for, as well as additional enforcement, additional checks, or were you just looking for just kind of what others are doing?
I guess that's kind of it, and to compare us to other communities is good. And I know Troy's always had a reputation for being good about that, like I said. But also, you mentioned how with a certain type of liquor license, you need 3 violations in a year before it goes. I guess maybe what we could learn is how that works, how that process works. I know a lot of it's out of the city's control probably, since liquor licenses are kind of a state thing. But I'm curious like how that process works, because that having people come forward, Debbie and Joey mentioning that they've heard and witnessed. I know that's just circumstantial evidence, but I'm curious to know like what our options are regarding that.
We've done memos in the past that kind of further explain what the powers of municipal councils are, and we're happy to bring that to council as well, perhaps maybe even on the 19th, the agenda on the 19th.
And like what the state does, like I'm really not familiar with how they enforce the rule you told me about 3 in 1 year. I don't know how the different licenses work or any of that, so I'm curious that, because we do have a lot, Troy in particular, we have a lot of retail establishments, we have a lot of that kind of establishment, so it'd be good to know, especially for the new council members that weren't here the last time we did this in 2019 to brush up on that as well.
Happy to bring something to council.
Thank you.
Additional council comments? We've commented a lot tonight. We do have a closed session, so we'll recess for a minute here and pick up in the boardroom.
I was debating. I have some, but I'm like,